Well done, Arteta. Plenty of hit here. Yes! Arsenal have their breakthrough. Mikel Arteta, they deserve it. Oh, they're behind again. It's amazing. It's Aaron Ramsey. That's the response of Arsenal. Iwobi, nicely done, brilliantly done. Bayer in, Walcott. Sensational Arsenal goal. Is that a handball? No. Nothing the play can do. Great, what a goal! Arsenal have made it 3-0. Jack Wilshere with an absolute thunderbolt.
Thursday Night Live, an Arsenal podcast for Arsenal fans all over the world. Welcome back. First of all, let me start by offering my apologies for last week. Last week, we were scheduled our usual show, Thursday Night Live, and 8 minutes before the start of that show, I got a message from our Australian contingent saying, I don't feel very well. So he fucked off, let us down badly. So I said to Liam, you ready to do this, just the two of us? And Liam wasn't there either. So I decided, rather than do an hour of just listening to me waffle on, we cancelled at the last minute. Real apologies for that. But both of those guys are here this evening. Welcome, Max. How's your tooth?
Mate? Yeah, it's much better. And I feel like we've been here before, Darren. I've got this nostalgia about this intro. I don't know what it is, but it almost feels like it's been rehearsed.
You see, the thing is, what Max is trying to do is to ridicule me because we've already done this introduction once and I forgot to press the go live button. Come on, I've just got in to work. I'm tired, I'm cold, I'm old. What more do you need to know? The guy laughing in the background is probably everyone, but we'll just concentrate on Liam. Welcome, Liam.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Yeah, good. So we cancelled last week's show, but this week, I'm going to try and remember what I said for the last 7 minutes. This week, we're going to go a little bit different. We're going to have a slightly different show. Now, you all know Tez. Tez is our leader on the Clock End Talk. He runs all these podcasts. He hosts the review show. He's been doing this for years now. Now, Tez, when there's a quiet period, like an international break, what he likes to do is to interview us amateur pundits and find out a little bit more about us. So we had planned this week not to do a Thursday Night Live, but to do one of these Gooner to Gooner. Tez was going to come on and interview the three of us. Great. Now, 18 months ago, when this was first planned, when Tez said to me, Darren, in the international break, can you do a fucking Gooner to Gooner with me? You cunt. I said, yeah, great. That week, 18 months ago, when Tez had planned to do Gooner to Gooner with me, his aorta exploded. He ended up in hospital and he's never been the same since. 18 months later, Tez says, right, guys, you cunts, don't do your fucking Thursday Night Live show this week. What I want you to do is do the Gooner to Gooner and I'll come on and I'll interview the three of you. So that was the plan for this week. And then Tez got ill and ended up in hospital again this week. Now, I sound very jolly about that, but I'm only saying that because he's actually okay. Well, don't know about okay, but he's out of hospital, and all of you that are very concerned, he is actually doing very well. In fact, he's the one who just let me know that I hadn't pressed the live button because he said, thought you guys were fucking meant to be recording now. So tonight's show is going to be a little different tonight. Tonight, what we are going to do is we're going to interview each other. Tez has sent a list of questions in. They're all, you can tell how long ago he did this because the last question on the list is thoughts on Stan Kroenke and the new regime. So we might just bypass that question. Oh, Tez has got me. Yeah, Tez is listening. Okay, if you are listening, we didn't really promote this show very much tonight, so you can come on and ask your own questions, but we're going to just crack on. You ready, guys? These are questions that Tez has given to us, and it's due to find out a little bit about us, and of course, ask yourself these questions. They're all about favourite players, time we've supported Arsenal and all that. Liam.
Yes.
Welcome again. Was that as good an intro as I did before?
I think it was a bit shorter, maybe a bit more trying to condense it. It's funny you mentioned It's funny you mentioned that the 8-minute delay when we recorded for 8 minutes and still screwed it up.
Yeah. Anyway, let's start. So tonight, rather than do our usual Thursday night live, which I'm sure you all love, we're going to do a few questions and answers amongst ourselves. And the idea is to try and find out a little bit about us, a little bit about our history, so that you can get to know us better. Put our names on the back of your shirts, maybe. And I know what I missed in that intro. I missed Max's hair. Those of you who are watching on YouTube, you can see that although lockdown has been going on for 8 months, everything is now open except for the barbers. Is that fair? Anyway, so let's start with you, Liam. Liam, questions from Tez. There's one about Twitter. Are you very active on Twitter? What's your handle on Twitter? And are you involved? Do you get involved in the arguments?
Not the arguments. I can't be asked with it. No, you can find me on as you try to pronounce every week. Gron in Guna.
Yes, I remember.
That's the one. That's the English way of pronouncing it, at least. No, I'm semi-active on Twitter. Love a bit of a moan when we're not doing so well. Love to be overjoyed when we're all right. Try to look at things from the coach's perspective, but I put a bit of music on there as well, just to mix things up a little bit.
Yeah. So, Max, I mean, you've got this whole franchise of podcasts and Twitter accounts, and you get banned and you get back on, then you get banned again. Are you currently active? And what do you call yourself on Twitter?
So I am currently active now under the banner of @TheArseBrothers because of another banning due to unsavory comments made about Tim Sherwood, which seems to be my MO because I've been banned from Twitter 3 times and 3 times it's been calling Tim Sherwood a cunt related.
But surely that's okay. That's not.
You would think, wouldn't you? You would think that in this crazy mixed up world that, calling Tim Sherwood a cunt is the least of the world's issues. But no, apparently Twitter draws the line.
So I'll stay with you. How did you become? I mean, I look at you now. You're a relatively young man. You're living in Australia. How the fuck are you an Arsenal fan? How did that all become about?
Yeah, it comes from. So I'm born in South London. Born in West Norwood. Families, all mum's family are from South London, and some from the Woolwich area. So they're Arsenal fans. Dad's family is Chelsea fans, and his uncle played for Chelsea. And predominantly, I became an Arsenal fan through my brother Toby, who is the other half of the founders of the Arse Brothers. And we got taken back to England as young men. Toby came back with the football bug, posters all over his wall of Ian Wright and Lee Dixon and, all the old Four Horsemen. And it took me a little bit longer. It took me until about... And I've said this before, the coverage for football in Australia for a long time was very, very poor. You only got the Premier League review show, and that was the only football that you got all week. And it wasn't until Foxtel, which I guess like the equivalent of Sky, took over in Australia, that we started to get games. Around 2000 was when I actually became... So I'd been an Arsenal fan for much longer, but when I became a serious Arsenal fan and started watching every single game. But yeah, you can owe that one to Toby, who's the one who got me into it.
As Rick says, Rick, thanks. You're always here. Rick, you should have been a Palace fan, surely, with West Norwood.
Yeah. Well, I worked in Crystal Palace as well. I worked up on Gypsy Hill. So maybe. Always kept my eye on Palace. So I guess they're my second team, if you're allowed a second team. But
no, you're not.
No, diehard Arsenal fans.
The only second team is the team that plays Tottenham each week. That's always my second team. That's always. You can't have another one. Liam, what about you? How did you get into the Arsenal? You're obviously a little younger than me, maybe a year or two.
Give or take.
So what was yours? Was yours the success, the Invincibles? Was it that?
No, so I didn't really get into football until we'd really moved to the Emirates. My mum's side of the family are very West Ham oriented, coming from Southend-on-Sea, Essex way. So it's quite an easy trip for them. My dad's side of the family are mostly Arsenal fans, come from North London. His grandparents came from South London as well, just before the move, ironically. And so my only way of deciding who I was going to support is when Arsenal and West Ham played each other. I'd support the winner. Arsenal won, and there we go.
So simple as that. So if we'd have lost that game, you'd have
be a
been,
West Ham
you wouldn't
fan.
be here.
No, and I'd be able to show off the picture of me as a kid, dressed up by my mum in all West Ham pajamas, and she loves whipping that photo out every now and then.
Parents, wish I had some.
Keep it light.
Fucking hell, Darren.
Well, look, it was just it. I'm an orphan. Well, let's move on. So these are questions that Tez has got. I'm sure he's got a better style than me of asking them. Let's start with you, Liam. Who is your, I think this is all time. Who is your all time, and all time isn't as long for you as it is for me, your all time favourite Arsenal player and why?
If we're talking all time, do I get to say someone I've never actually seen live?
Well, if it's your favourite player, I guess you can.
Yeah, we'll go for it. Bergkamp. Sorry, saying it the Dutch way.
Sorry, he started to skit at us. He's been in Holland for too long.
I'm starting to get an accent like Max has, just a Dutch one. Bergkamp is my favourite. Ironically, now that I live here, but no, it was just some of the things that he could do with the football. One of the first goals I ever saw was his goal against Newcastle, the turn, and obsessed over some of the stuff that he's been able to do, the hat-trick at Leicester, things like that. Unreal player.
Yeah, Bergkamp was a good shout. What about you, Max? You've got a bit longer of history. Favourite of all time?
Yeah, a bit longer of history, but I thought about this and I thought about how many of these things I've watched and how many Henrys I've seen said and how many Bergkamps I've seen said. And I actually sort of went through, this is the one that I did think about. And you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to get drilled in the comments for it, but it's Theo Walcott for me. My favourite Arsenal player of all time. Yep. I've got good reason for it as well.
Go on then. The reason, it does ask why, but I watched him. I have to mute you.
I watched him from the first game of his career until the last game of his Arsenal career, and I guess for the period of time that I've been following Arsenal, I was very young in the Bergkamp era. Still very blessed to be an Arsenal fan throughout the Invincibles period. But Walcott, for me at the time he came in, I was starting to fall out of love with an Arsenal team that had no English players. I think we were at that stage, the year before Theo signed, we were the first team to ever put up an entire 11. I don't even think it was an entire 11. I think it was an entire 17 of non-English players. We had Ali Adiers and all of these guys who I didn't like. And this little 16-year-old gem from Southampton came into the club and essentially kind of set the football club on fire. He's hugely underrated. He never achieved what he should have achieved due to injury. But I'm just going all out here, Darren. I loved him. It was the most excited I could ever be was when Theo scored, when Theo had a good game, 1 in every 3. Or one in every 5 when he had a good game.
I'll only take question on that when let me say I'll take umbrage with that. When you say he didn't achieve all he achieved through injury, I think currently he has achieved everything because he's now a substitute at Southampton, which is where he was when he started, and he should have stayed there. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that Mesut Ozil doesn't get into my best 20 Arsenal players. Theo doesn't get in the top 200.
You didn't say best. Right, you didn't say best. Favorite. You didn't say most skilled. You said who was my favourite player. Theo Walcott's my favourite player.
I cannot argue.
If I had a son, and my wife is pregnant at the moment, and there's a board of names down behind me where we were writing names out, we didn't know whether it was a boy or a girl, and Theo is right at the top, circled about 10 times.
Well, let's just thank God you didn't like Szczesny.
Fucking Wojciech.
I don't know. You're going to go
Wojciech.
I don't know what your surname is, mate.
If I wasn't allowed someone I hadn't seen live, Wojciech would have been my favourite as a goalkeeper. Okay. As a goalkeeper.
When you have some children, then Liam, then Wojciech. We look forward to welcoming Wojciech into the world. Look forward to that.
Sure, my missus will be so happy.
It's a nice question. What was your favourite Arsenal moment? What was your favourite Arsenal moment? Let's go back to you, Liam. What's your favourite Arsenal moment?
For me, what I remember would be the 2017 FA Cup final against Chelsea. Just because I was but the FA Cups before then I missed for various different reasons. So I kept up to date with it, but I didn't actually watch it, so I couldn't enjoy it. So that was the first trophy I really saw us, lift live. As silly as that sounds, given my given the ages here. But I also went up to North London to go watch it amongst Arsenal fans. So to be able to do that, watch it with the crowd, and sort of have the ultimate experience of seeing the first trophy we've lifted, that tops it for me.
Yeah, it was a fabulous game. I was lucky enough to be at Wembley that day. Max, actually, should I be asking myself these questions as well, or should I just do you two?
Oh, mate, you can do
I just
whatever
don't
you
get to
want.
talk enough.
You can chip in where you need, mate.
So, Max, what was your favourite Arsenal moment? You've either frozen or you're thinking long and hard about it. I'm starting to think he looks like he's in a real serious pose there, doesn't he?
At least it's not giving a blowjob, isn't it?
Yeah, he's deep in thought, but he's now disappeared. And Max, you're back. You actually didn't look, yeah, you're back, and you just looked very pensive and thoughtful.
Yeah. Well, I try not to freeze like Liam with my mouth open for a cock.
Just said that as all.
So, do you remember the question? Oh, is he frozen again? Oh, this is working really well. So maybe I should just.
Or am I?
Oh, you're there. Yeah, your picture's frozen. This is an difficult internet day. All right, look, I'll tell you what, while we're waiting for Max to come back on, shall I just quickly recap those questions? I'll do a quick bit myself because I do love talking. Why am I an Arsenal fan? My dad made me sit down, got our first colour television for the 1971 Cup final. 1971 Cup final. First ever colour television. Yes, kids, televisions used to just be in black and white before those days. First colour television. And I remember my dad, when Charlie George scored the winning goal. Now, you got to remember, I'm only 5 years old at this time, so I haven't got any great memories of that day. I remember getting a colour television. And I remember when we scored the winning goal, I don't remember anything about really watching the game, except we played in yellow. My dad got so excited, he banged so hard on the arm of the chair that it broke off. And I just remember thinking, this must be good. And then, of course, my dad took me as soon as he could. He was a proper gooner. Took me many times when I was like 7 or 8. We started to go. And, going into that cathedral that was Highbury when you're a 7 or 8 year old kid just fills me with shivers now, even just talking about it. It's a fantastic place to go and watch football. It was a fantastic place to go and watch football. And I was hooked. It's been my religion, my church, my cathedral ever since. Max is still gone. My favourite Arsenal players, I'm going to have to break it down. Decades. Liam Brady, 1970s. Absolutely superb. Don't know how good he'd be in today's game, but he was so much better than anybody else in the pitch in those days. Didn't stay with us that long. Went off because all the good players went off to Italy in those days, and he went off and had a great career in Italy before coming back and signing for West Ham. He could have scored the winning goal against your lot, Liam, and you could have been a West Ham fan now. 80s. I don't know. Let me think. I haven't really thought about this. 1980s, I'll go for Ian Wright. I think he scraped into the 80s. Fabulous player. Love him. 90s, that Thierry Henry. He must fit into the 90s, mustn't he? Thierry Henry, super player. And last 20 to 10, what do you call them? The noughties? Fuck, that one's hard. Cesc Fabregas. On the top of my head, says Fabregas, and in the last 10 years, Santi Cazorla. There you go. Very quickly done. Max still hasn't joined us back, so let's go on to you, Liam. We just done favourite Arsenal moment. I've got to say, I'm with you on that. I was at that cup final in, was it 2017 against Chelsea? Yeah. In all the years I've watched Arsenal, loved us winning the league in 89. I was on my first date with my wife, who's from Liverpool, and a Liverpool supporter. That was a fabulous night. Not for her, but that was a fabulous night. Do you know, there's been some fabulous nights. I've watched Arsenal all over the world, and it's been terrific. But I think that Chelsea Cup final, going into that, we really, really didn't think we were going to win. We were underdogs. They'd just won the league. They were the top team. We were sliding down, and
because Shelny had been sent off against Everton the game before.
Yeah, just to win, such a great final. I mean, and really just to play them off the park. Mertesacker and Holding that day as well, if I remember. Super day. All right, look, while we wait for Max to get back, Liam, who has been Arsenal's best signing?
Ooh,
tough one.
Yeah. I'm sort of trying to do this from what I remember, sort of Emirates era, as boring and recent bias that might be. I was really struggling with this one. It was a toss-up between Aubameyang, it's the obvious one, and Alexis. But I went for Aubameyang because Alexis is a cunt, frankly. And Aubameyang is quite single-handed. To be fair, Aubameyang single-handedly scored our goals for the last couple of seasons almost. So yeah, it's hard to argue with either, but Aubameyang tips it.
Yeah, it's a good shout. Max, you're back with us?
I am. I hope so.
No, I can hear you. I don't know what went wrong. Maybe is that hair just falling down in front of the microphone and we couldn't hear you.
Who knows?
Or,
Who knows?
Or maybe
Who knows?
Twitter know that you're live on YouTube and think you shouldn't be. Maybe because you said Tim Sherwood was a cunt. They've just binned you off.
Yep, very true.
You haven't missed much. Just me waffling about all my favourite players. We're at Arsenal's best signing. Liam's just gone for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. What we were asking you last time was what was your favourite Arsenal moment, but we didn't.
Yes, so I was thinking about my favourite Arsenal moments, and instead of thinking about things that were important for the club, like cups or games or stuff like that, I thought about the times when I was most excited, most standing up. Because as someone in Australia, we haven't had the opportunity to go and have these amazing live experiences in the Emirates or at Highbury. So a lot of our experiences are pub experiences, or for Toby and I, they're couch experiences. They're sitting there watching things together on the sofa at stupid o'clock in the morning. And the one that I pulled out of my ass that I thought was the most excited that I've been in a home environment was the Arshavin 4 goals against Liverpool. I just remember being just ecstatic and screaming my head off. And Arshavin was meant to be such a good player for us and delivered so very little.
Yeah, I was going to say that did promise so much that night, but it turned into a bit of a disaster, didn't it? That signing. Well, moving on to that, it's a lovely link. So, who was your best Arsenal signing?
I think for the club, and for what he delivered to the club, and for how important he was to the club, it's Thierry Henry, and we can't go past Thierry Henry as a signing. I know a lot of people look to that Bergkamp era, or they might look to Ian Wright, or even Aubameyang now. I think that some of the parallels that people make with Aubameyang, he hasn't done enough for me yet to be up there. But for me, Thierry Henry changed football. I was looking at videos of him the other day, and I think I tweeted up, never before, never again are we going to see a player that single-mindedly dominant in the Premier League.
Yeah, I couldn't. I've got to say, my best signing in 40 years of watching the club, 45 years of watching it. When you think about absolute world-class players, I think Bergkamp was excellent. Vieira was fabulous, but Henry, I think, was just the best player in world football, and he was playing for us. So I agree with you.
And
I think that's...
no one knew. And I challenge anyone to say, when we signed Thierry Henry, who was standing there saying, we've just signed the best player in football for the next 15 years. Fucking no one. That's what makes it special.
He was rubbish for 6 months. He really was. I mean, so
was Pires. I mean, people look back at Pires with like starry eyes. Pires had a terrible start to his Arsenal career.
Yeah. I've told you the story, and I met Pires, and he gave me a lift. I went and picked up his wife from his flat in Baker Street, and then Pires gave me a lift to the station on the way home, and he was fucked. He just said, I can't, but I said, how are you enjoying it? And he said, no, so hard. We got Old Trafford Sunday. Oh, and we went on and lost. It was one of those that we lost 8-2 or 6-1. Perez was fucked. He really took him a season to get into it. So absolutely right. There's a good message from Rick when we're talking about best signings. He says Champagne Charlie. When you talk about superstars, Charlie Nicholas joined us in, I guess it was the early 80s. It was before George Graham's reign. And we really were terrible. Terry Neal, Don Howe were the managing pair. And we didn't have anyone to get excited about. And we broke the club record and signed Charlie Nicholas from Celtic, I guess. And he was fabulous for us because we were a really, really rubbish team, finishing mid to lower table. And then we had a superstar who was just a genius on the football, but Ian Half know it. I remember standing first game of the season away at Watford. And he pulled up he was suspended. He got sent off in the last game of the previous season. And he pulled up in a stretched limo, pulled up alongside the pub and wound down the window, black leather jacket, sunglasses, hair all greased back. And everyone started, Charlie, 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 born is the king of Highbury. All that, thousands of us singing it. And I was right at the front and I thought, fuck me, he's only a bloke. He ain't that good, So, yes, Charlie Nicholas, good shout, Rick, but no, good signing, but certainly not the best. Right, my iPad's gone off, which has got all the questions on. So bear with me a second. Here, we're back. So on the same vein, Liam, who was Arsenal's worst signing?
There's a long list.
Yeah, you narrowed this one down, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm trying to do sort of Emirates era that I remember, but that's where they've all pretty much come from. I struggled to pick between Sebastian Schillaci and Andre Santos, but I'll go with Schillaci because at least Santos scored at the Bridge in that 5-3. So I'll go with Schillaci, I think.
I'm not even sure he was that bad a player. I think he was just...
He came with pedigree. He came with a bit of pedigree.
And he actually went away. He left us and went and played well after he left us as well. It's not everyone suited to the Premier League, unfortunately.
No, but he more than a bit flaked. I think he was pretty awful, let's be honest.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, you could look at today's team and
sure. I mean,
there's a lot that would battle him for that position.
Oh yeah, I mean, I tossed up between Denis Suarez, but he didn't really play for us, so I'm not sure you can label him the worst. Probably the stupidest signing, but I'm not sure he's the worst because he didn't actually play.
Max, worst signing? Can you beat Schillaci?
This is difficult because I think you've got a couple of different types of bad signing. I mean, you've got bad signings that were bad players. You've got bad signings that were meant to be really good and didn't end up turning into anything. I mean, you've got bad signings as far as bad contracts. So, on the contracts front, I could say that the 350 grand contract to Mesut Ozil was one of our worst signings. As far as the worst out-and-out footballers, that I've ever seen play for the club, like the list is so long. I would say Kolasinac, I think, is one of the worst pure footballers I've ever seen lace boots for the club. He should be playing rugby. But do you know the player I've decided to go with? And weirdly enough, he also owns my favourite Arsenal moment, is Arshavin as one of the worst signings because it delivered nothing. It delivered nothing and it came with such a huge thing and he excited us so much and he kind of drifted off into the back part of the squad and then fucked off as a fat little Russian. So I'm going to go with someone like Arshavin. Or the other one I was thinking of was Gallus because I thought he was a cunt before we signed him. I thought he was a cunt when he's at the club and I think he's a cunt now.
Well, you talk about Gallus. When I was having my rant a couple of weeks ago about Sol Campbell, well, I can't stand a man who joined us, who left Tottenham captain. Gallus was like that for me, Yeah,
he was always a fucking rat cunt.
Yeah. And I also, the example I didn't use, but when I was listening back to our podcast, because it was that good, I needed to cheering up the following day. So I listened back. I was thinking the example I should use, if Tony had had Adams or Thierry Henry had left us to go to Tottenham at the end of his contract, if they'd walked out on a free, it's just wrong. It's just wrong. My worst signing, I've just Googled him because I'm starting to think I've made him up. There was a player I used to hate called John Hawley. If anyone knows anything about him, it was Jon, John, I think, Hawley. It was sometime in the past, and I remember just thinking, who the fuck is this fat centre forward we've got? But I've just Googled him and I can't even find him, so maybe I've just made that one up. Is it a difficult one for me, this one. Liam, who's your favourite player in today's Arsenal team?
Um,
And we're going to get
probably
3
Kieran.
Tierney's.
Oh, you bastard! Yeah, he's just the typical British guy, and he's got his shirt tucked in. He's all proper, no nonsense. Love him, brilliant.
Yeah, Max. I thought through. I think Tierney's my favourite for all the reasons that Liam says. He's just hard working. He's hard. He's everything you want somebody to wear the shirt.
Yeah. Well, Tierney would definitely be up there for me. This was a question when I looked at it, I really struggled with, but I ended up going for another left field because I like going left field. But the guy who I most want to get game time, the guy who I most want to achieve, and the guy who most excites me as far as what his ceiling is Ainsley Maitland-Niles. And I've been banging this drum for a really, really long time. I look at that kid and I think you've got absolutely everything required to be a top player for us for a long time, except maybe the bit between the ears. So at the moment, if I was buying an Arsenal shirt tomorrow, and we all know my history with Arsenal shirts, Walcott, sold, Wilshere, sold, Welbeck, sold. So the next one, boys.
Mohamed El Neni. Sorry, I muted you there. I wanted to do it, and I missed it first time round when you said your favourite player. I wanted to mute you, and they go, Mohamed El Neni. But I couldn't, I forgot the accent. I couldn't work out where you were from. So, all right, we'll take that. Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Well done. What's the next question? What was Arsenal's darkest moment? Oh, that's a deep question, isn't it? Oh, I haven't even seen that one. Arsenal's darkest moment.
Baku, for me at least. Anyway, it was just so important. We had to get back into it. I don't really remember things like the Chelsea game at Highbury in the Champions League, or the Champions League final in 2006. But I've obviously never seen us lift a European trophy. That was such an important one. Like, if you had to win, if there was a game you had to win, it was that game, and we didn't half flunk it. So yeah, Baku still hurts now.
Yeah. It's a good shout. It's very hard to get over that one, wasn't it? I mean, I have sort of dismissed it because there's been a few sitting in the front row of the halfway line when what's that Tottenham player who scored against us from the halfway line in the other semi-final? We're in Naeem. When Naeem hit that one over David Seaman's head from 50 yards, I was just sitting in the front row of the stand, right behind him in Paris. And, you can just see the ball leave his foot and you think, oh, no, that's going to go in. Last kick of the game, and we get beat. Oh, do you know what? That wasn't my darkest moment, but it's just sent a shiver down my mind, down my back. Max, your darkest moment?
Easiest question that's come yet. Us getting fucking ass whooped at Manchester United. What was it? The 8?
It was an 8-2 and a 6-1, I think, wasn't there?
Yeah, the 8-2. The 8-2 is my darkest. Head in hands. What are we doing? Where is the club going? Who are we going to sign? What is life? Yeah,
it was
terrible.
It was bad, but you both come up with games that I know you can get depressed and down about games, especially finals, and beaten by your rivals, humiliated. But Max, within that period of time, we were getting humiliated quite regularly. We got beat 6 by Chelsea, 5 by City. Liverpool tonked us every time we went there. So that sort of washes that, into one period for me. I think the darkest moment, a moment is maybe the wrong word, but the darkest moment in Arsenal's history was the last year of Arsene Wenger, when the crowd turned against the manager and the club. And it was, without doubt, the most unpleasant time in my time supporting Arsenal. And this isn't coming from a pro or anti-Wenger stance. My thoughts are very well detailed on that. But I just felt that we were in civil war as a club, and it was horrendous. It was horrible. It was nasty. It was dark. And I think that, without doubt, is the darkest moment in my history of watching Arsenal. I mean, some might say it's when we bribed our way to get promoted into the top flight many years ago. That could be called a dark moment. But I kind of like that one.
It's funny, isn't it? It's funny, isn't it, for the people who. So a lot of the guys I podcast with on other platforms, and obviously with Darren, for the season ticket holders, that was so much more palpable for them. You know, it was so much more real for them. I think for the television crowd and for the overseas crowd, we knew it was happening. We understood that it was happening. And if you were on Twitter, you could see it. But Twitter's always a fucking toilet. But for the people to be inside the stadium, and for season ticket holders who had sat next to each other for 20 years to be warring with each other, actual warring factions, you know, Arsenal out brigade and, you know, the toxic positivity Arsenal in brigade, you know, to actually be there and to be inside that would have been a really horrible thing, especially for someone like you, Darren, who's been going there for as long as what you have and throughout the Highbury era, and Arsenal's always been this club. I mean, for me, I always used to say that our fans were, you know, head and shoulders above the other fans. We weren't. We were just consistently winning. And we didn't even start to see any toxicity until we stopped consistently winning. And I think that's why the older fans didn't get as toxic against Wenger, because they had gone through the 60s and gone through the 70s and gone through the 80s. And they didn't just know Arsenal as this fucking juggernaut that wins everything and buys the best players. So, yeah, very, very good shout. And definitely from your perspective, a dark time for Arsenal.
Yeah, people were fighting physically. And I'm not talking about, you know, we've got a 60,000 seater stadium. I bet there's a fist fight, you know, every game. There's going to be trouble. People drink. But I'm talking about there was physical violence in the block. I mean, every game. You know, I mean, it was a physical, nasty, violent time at Arsenal. Absolutely the darkest. Oh, let's liven it up. I thought when I said my parents were dead, that was pretty low. Now
that was definitely Thursday Night Live's darkest hour.
Let's. Oh no, I was going to say let's lighten the mood by going on to the next question, which is: do you see Arsenal winning any trophies this season? The Women's Super League?
Short answer, no. To be honest, I don't think so. It's kind of difficult to call, though, really, because you don't know what. Because look at Liverpool's squad now; that they're struggling with injuries, and that's what I think it will ultimately boil down to. I just don't think we have the same strength and depth as many other teams, so I just can't see it.
Max, any hope from you?
No. I said at the start of the season I thought we'd finish sixth and have no trophies, and as fucking miserable as that sounds, I'm going to stand by it on current form.
Okay, well, I'm going to say we're going to win 2 trophies. We're going to win the League Cup. We're still in that. And we're going to win the FA Cup because it hasn't started yet. And, let's not get downhearted here. We're very, very good in the FA Cup. You've only got to win 6 games to win the trophy. You can get lucky and get 4 or 5 easy draws to get to that final. And when you get to that final, it was one-off games against a Liverpool, who we've beaten recently, a Manchester City, who we've beaten recently, a Chelsea, who we've beaten recently, a Tottenham, who are shit. So let's hope. Yeah, I reckon we will. Next question. Where do we see Arsenal in 5 years' time?
Where's the crystal ball? Had to get that one in there. I haven't the faintest idea. Really haven't a clue.
Where do you hope they'll be in 5 years' time, then, man?
I hope we'll be winning the league, to be honest. It just could go so many ways. We could still be where we are now, to be honest. We could be up there challenging for the league. It could be even worse if things don't go our way. I really don't. I was thinking about this, and I really don't know which way it could go. I really don't.
It's a really tough question. I agree with you. Max, anything to add to that, sir?
Where do I think we'll be in 5 years? On the trajectory that we hope to be on? Look, I never talk about winning the league. I think winning the league can sometimes be a once-in-a-generation thing, and we've been very lucky. We've seen us win the league. So winning the league isn't. I don't think that even if you have the best team with the Premier League the way that it is now, it's not like there aren't 6 other teams who are capable of winning the league. So that's my caveat to start with. I never look at it like that. Where do I hope we are in 5 years? I hope that we're competing to win the league, right? That we're in the mix to win the league, that we're one of the teams, the 3 or the 4 teams. Not that we're finishing 4th and we're cut adrift from number 1 and number 2, but that we reestablish ourselves as a top club. Where do I actually see us in 5 years? I actually see us getting that done. I think that the pieces of the puzzle are being put together now. I think that it's a bit of a fallacy that Kroenke doesn't invest in the club. I think if you look at the money he's invested good money. I think the people that he has employed have squandered that money terribly on poor contracts and poor players. But I do think that in Mikel Arteta, and I have been not negative towards him, but I have been open to criticising him rather than just giving him a free pass in the last couple of weeks, criticising his coaching, not criticising him as a man, which I think are 2 very different things. I think that Edu seems to be, he's got good Arsenal people back into the club with Mikel Arteta in the club, with Edu in the club. And I think that we're on the right trajectory to be a competitive team, I think, in 3 seasons. So in 5 years, I think absolutely we should be somewhere around there.
Well, let me ask you a supplementary question. I guess it's a simple yes or no. Do you see Mikel Arteta being the manager in 2025?
No, I don't. I think modern managers, you've got a shelf life of 3 years, I think. Unless if he gets to his 3 years and he's won something, I think he'll still be there in 3 years. But I've got doubts about whether Mikel Arteta will be the manager at the end of the season.
Fuck.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like honestly, if it all goes shit shaped, and he starts getting bundles and bundles of losses, I can't see how he can continue. I can't see. Not that I would sack him. This isn't me saying that I would sack him. I am fearful that modern football and the modern football fan won't stand for it. Won't stand for the fact that this is a 3 to 5 year plan. And I think the pressure will mount up massively on him. I have some doubts about whether or not at this stage in his career, he's actually built to be able to manage some of the top personalities that he's got in and around that club. And I wonder if, a player like Mesut Ozil again is going to erode another manager and separate a team.
Wow, that's a depressing. Back to my parents being dead. Liam. Liam, Arteta here in 5 years, or like Max, don't think he'll see out the season?
I mean, Max does have a bit of a point when they talk about the shelf life of a manager, that you do see them rotate every 3 or 4. So if he's here in 5, I'd probably be pleased because it means he must be doing a good job.
If he's doing a good job, he'll go to Barcelona or somewhere, surely.
That too.
Back to City.
Yeah, possibly. But no, I don't think he will be. I'd like him to be, but I don't think he will be.
No, I mean, I guess you're probably right. I've still got Wenger and George Graham in my head, but they served us for quite long periods of time. I just can't get back into this. We've already changed our manager 3 times in the last 18 months. That's just not healthy for me as a club. But you're right. I guess 3 or 4 years is probably the shelf life these days of a club manager. If he's doing badly, he'll get sacked. If he's doing well, we'll probably go somewhere else. Unfortunately, that's where we are now. But I'm going to say yes, he will be here in 5 years, because we'll be semi-finalists, finalists of the Champions League by then, because that's how long his project will take. Nothing like a bit of positivity. Next question. You have a budget of £100 million next summer. Who'd you buy? Any thoughts on this one, Lee?
Yeah, I thought, well, first thing I went for was a striker. I thought the guy from Celtic, Eduard, I really like him. I think he's just does what I think Arteta's asking Lacazette to do, but so much better. And I think Scottish football's got quite easy for him, and I don't think he'll be that expensive. So he was my striker. That other guy from Salzburg, I can't pronounce his name for the life of me, so I'll call him Dom.
Is that anything like his name, or he just made that up?
No, his first name's Dominic. Okay. So I'll go with Dom. It's just easier. Don't know. God knows how his surname's pronounced. No, I'd go with him because I think he brings a lot of what we're missing to midfield. So I don't think he'll be expensive either. I think he's meant to have a release clause, but who knows? And then I didn't put a name down, but I thought a right back as a bit more left field.
Yeah, you got Ainsley Maitland-Niles, mate.
That if his head's in the right spot, though, and he tends to play left back at the moment. But no, I also don't think he's that great going forward. So I'm thinking a right back who's as good as Bellerin going forward and as good as Maitland-Niles and as strong as Maitland-Niles going backwards.
Yeah, some good points. Max, you see you've got 100 million. You just going to go on the piss, or are you going to spend it on a player?
Well, yeah, if someone gives me 100 million, I'm going to fuck off to Barbados and not do anything for the rest of my life. But if I have to spend it on Arsenal, look, I'm not really interested in. We talk about this on the Arse Brothers a lot. You know, people get obsessed with players and with names. And again, you know, it's world football and there's however many countless clubs all vying for the same people, and you have to be able to attract the player and you have to get him at the right price and you have to get him at the right contract. So I'm not really interested in what players I would bring in. What I thought is, what does £100 million do for Arsenal? And in the modern game, it really doesn't do a huge amount. Really doesn't do a huge amount. And if we want to be a top team, and I mean a top team, we need to stop pissing about with these fucking Edwards from Scotland who have been playing in a fucking pony league, and we've got no idea what the fuck they're doing, because what you're asking for there, Liam, is more fucking mediocrity, more mid-table finishes, and more fucking hit and hope on fucking bang average players that they're going to come in and be okay. If we're a serious fucking football club, I don't give a fuck. I'm done pissing about for fucking pocket change down the back of the fucking couch. You got 100 million fucking pound and you want to go to Scotland and get some silly prick who scored fucking 20 goals. I want to go and get whoever the best fucking striker in the world is, give him 100 million pounds, put him up front and say, fucking go score me 30 goals, you fucking cunt.
Any redress, Liam?
I actually really rate Edouard as a player, to be honest. I think he'll do quite well. All I'll say is Kieran Tierney's not done too bad from a Scottish league, has he?
Yeah, but I still don't think I still don't look at Kieran Tierney and think you're the best left back that I've ever seen. Like, he's still growing into the game.
You look at him and you knock one out, didn't you? Because he's just everything you want.
No, I love Tierney's heart, and you need players like that, right? You need players with heart who go out and run, and they'll run through brick walls for you, and that's why Tierney's such a good player for me. As an actual footballer, whether it's through injury or not having seen Kieran Tierney that much, or the fact that he's been played on the left of a three, you know, he's been played as a centre-back. I don't actually think we've seen anywhere near the ceiling of Kieran Tierney, and I really, really hope that we do. But I just kind of refuse to sort of wax lyrical about things like this. And I'm you know, we're talking about where do you want Arsenal to be in 5 years? Well, if you want Arsenal to be winning the fucking Premier League in 5 years, we've got to get back to doing what the clubs who are currently winning the Premier League are doing, what the cities are doing and what the Liverpools are doing, and going out and buying the best players in the best positions, paying a fucking fortune for them and putting them on massive wages. That's how you get back to the top, because that's modern football. Sounds shit, sounds un-Arsenal. We'd all love to uncover a rough gem. We'd all love for Eddie Nketiah to all of a sudden put on 5 fucking stone and turn into a wonder kid. Probably not going to fucking happen. Maybe we'll go buy someone who's guaranteed 30 fucking goals. That's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, I was wondering how we were going to stretch this to an hour, seeing that was the last question. Well done, Max. But what it's worth, my 2 pence, I'm more on Max than Liam on this. I don't really know players. I don't really want to speculate. But after watching a lot of Jack Grealish this year, I'd like that type of player.
Oh, yeah.
In Arsenal. That type of player. Somebody who actually takes the ball, takes people on, falls over easily, wins free kicks, creates stuff, energetic, wears his shin pads down, lovely.
He'll cost a fortune, Darren. He'll cost a fortune, but theoretically, you would be buying in a Premier League ready, Premier League proven, now international player who's done it at the top level for a couple of seasons. That's what I'm talking about. That's a serious. That's a signing from a club, Darren, that says we're a serious fucking club.
There's a big part of me that thinks in 5 years' time, going back to the previous question, that Jack Grealish will still be at Aston Villa. He's a hometown club. He loves playing for him. He had a chance to go for the last 2 years. I mean, it's going to be interesting now because he's now playing for England and he's being highlighted all over the world. So how much his head will be turned, or how much Aston Villa's financial pockets will be turned when some serious offers come in. I think we've missed the boat on someone like Grealish, but it's that type of player I think we're really missing, because we're pretty dull to watch at the moment. And I miss that Santi Cazorla, Liam Brady.
I mean, what would we do for a Santi signing now? Like it brings into light, like, Santi, when we bought him in, people often talk about like it was a bit of an off the cuff signing, but he was the next guy in line. He was playing in that Spain team, and he was playing in that Spain team that was winning everything, and he just couldn't get in that team, obviously, because you had Iniestas and Fabregases, and they had this wealth of midfield talent. But when we bought in Cazorla, yes, he wasn't even that old when we brought him in, to be honest. He just got injured and we didn't see the best of him. But I mean, we're talking about bringing in that caliber of player, or everyone just seems to be, we're so like built up now. It's almost like we've been sold this shit at Arsenal that we have to go and buy young. We have to go buy young, unproven kids. We've got to go get them out of Spain. We've got to go get them out of Salzburg and places like that. And I'm not saying that those signings can't be good, but those signings should be... They should be supplementary. They should be supplementary signings, Darren.
Yeah, we've just signed Willian. Aubameyang on a big contract. These aren't young players, are they? We're signing some oldies as well. David Luiz.
I'm not a fan of those contracts either. I said when the Aubameyang signing was getting done, I was very 1 foot in each camp about whether or not to go throw that much money at someone that old again. Willian, I was never ecstatic about the contract once I found out how much fucking wages he was going to be on. When I thought it was on a free, and it may have been on reasonable wages, 150K on a free, even that's high. 250 fucking K for Willian to pass the ball fucking backwards and sideways.
Thursday Night Live it is, isn't it? Thursday Night Live is turning into a usual show. Max, he's got up all grumpy.
Yeah,
he's lost his hat.
I've just got this thing at the moment where everyone seems to be looking at young people and young players, and I'm like, you have a billionaire owner, right? He owns fucking Walmart, and we're scratching around for pennies down the back of the couch and hoping that we find a fiver.
Does he own Walmart? I didn't know he owned Walmart.
His wife does. I think his wife's family owns Walmart.
Oh, okay, right. Oh. Yeah, but that's like me saying my wife owns Tesco. She's got the money. It doesn't mean she's going to give it to me to go and spend on going to Arsenal. All right, well that's all the questions we've got. Anything else? Rick's been sending in a few. Been talking about Thomas Partey is his favourite player. Anything else, guys? Want to talk about? Where football's back this weekend. Do you watch any international football? Did you watch it? What was that? I don't know. Did you watch any international football this week?
No, I've said it before. It bores me to tears. International football, can't be doing with it. England have got Gareth Southgate in charge. The Dutch have got Frank de Boer in charge. It's boring as fuck.
Yeah, international football doesn't. I am the least connected to the Three Lions and the Crown that I've ever been in my life, and it doesn't help that this competition is shit as well. Like there's got to be a better way for teams who are going to qualify, or teams who did very well in previous tournaments, that they don't have to piss about playing all these fucking nobody teams. They need to tier it. They need to make sure
Max, I've got to stop you there, because what they've done now is tier it. That's what the Nations League is. We're playing, the likes of Belgium, and if we finish bottom of that little group, we get relegated, and the next tier down get promoted. So they've done exactly that. They've tried to make the games more interesting. Spain beat Germany 6-0 this week. Yeah, Spain are playing Germany rather than playing Iceland. The thing has started, so it has to settle down. They've done it on world rankings, so it will settle down. So the theory is that we'll be in a group with Spain, Germany, and Portugal, and those 4 games will be really interesting. So they are trying to do something about it. I mean, they've got to get things. They've got to change some things. Fuck, I didn't want to watch.
Well, they've got to change. They've got to change fucking Southgate's the first thing that England have to do.
Yeah, but he's been relatively successful. He's brought on a lot of young players. I'm not Southgate's biggest fan. I don't really want to watch. I turned on England Belgium to watch that, at the weekend, and it was like Spurs versus Spurs reserves. Couldn't stand it. Had to turn it off and watch the golf. Another good bet, by the way, Dustin Johnson at the start of the tournament. Can't stop at the moment. Having a good run. Leeds United at the weekend. Leeds United. Are we away at Leeds? I think we are, aren't we?
Away, yeah.
Yeah.
Ever been up there? Elland Road? Is that a ground that you? Oh, I guess.
No.
Got bad memories there. We had to go up there and avoid defeat to win the league one year, and Nigel Winterburn got injured with 5 minutes to go, came off, and they crossed in a ball from the left-hand side where he would have been, and they scored and beat us 1-0. And that was a long, sad trip home. Yeah, so it's the first. I think that's the last time we played there as well. So it's the first time we've been up to Elland Road for about 20 years.
I think we had an FA Cup game up there, didn't we, as well? Sanya scored, maybe?
Possibly.
If I remember rightly. Not in the league for years.
Yeah, maybe. I know we played him in the FA Cup at home, but I can't remember away. But you know,
I think we had a replay up there or something. And I seem to remember Sanya scoring, if memory serves me right.
Yeah, don't remember. It's a great old stadium, though, but it doesn't matter because there's going to be no fans there at the moment. Although, seeing that we've created a vaccine now, all the different companies around the world are now saying their vaccine's the best, I reckon. They reckon we could be back watching football in stadiums by Christmas.
By Christmas? Really that quick?
I read that today. That was the headline in the newspaper today. Fans back in stadia by Christmas.
We're looking at being locked down until March.
Well, to be fair, if I had my way, you'd both be locked up forever. Right, anything else, guys? I'm waffling on a bit now because we've done our hour. I found out so much about you. Max is a long-haired, miserable bastard.
Yep.
And Liam likes fat Scottish middle-aged strikers. Don't know what Eduardo's like. He could be anything. Never watched Celtic.
I think he's even younger than I am.
Well, I've got a quick question for the panel.
Okay.
Right, so we know that we've got 2 players out with COVID for the next game, don't we?
Who?
Yeah, Nenny
got COVID, and Willian. Was it Willian's got COVID?
No, Willian went to Dubai or something. I didn't see much about that, but Kolasinac.
Okay, well, Kolasinac doesn't matter. But I put a thing up on Twitter the other day saying I think Arsenal fans who are calling for these sweeping changes, change to formation, 5 players in, 5 players out. I said on Twitter, I think you're going to be very disappointed. I wouldn't expect to see more than 1 or 2 changes, and for us to go out in the same shape, but maybe with a tweak to the I guess the tactics within that formation. Are you guys expecting what the Arsenal world of Twitter is, which is apparently the whole thing's going to get torn up? We're going to play 4-4-2, Aubameyang and Pepe up front, Willian out of the team, Willock into the midfield, midfield 3 of Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Partey and Joe Willock, Mari to come back into the team, Bellerin dropped, Suarez in. Are you guys expecting to see something like that, or are you expecting what I'm expecting, and it's going to be much of the same, but hopefully with a little bit more attacking intent?
I think if we'd have played, we'd had a consecutive league game 3 or 4 days later, back in when the season's in and we're playing twice a week, I think we may have seen something. But I think Leeds United away is a game that Arteta is going to look at like he's looked at Liverpool, City, that sort of high-level game, because he doesn't want to attack them because they'll pick us off on a counter-attack. So I think he'll set up deep, he'll set up to counter-attack. And the players that he picked last week, which don't seem to be able to break teams down, are very good when they go up against good opposition. It's a worry for me that we consider Leeds to be good opposition, but that's where we are, and I think that's how we'll set up. I think he'll try to contain them, stop them creating chances, and try and hit them on the counter-attack. I think he might.
Will the Arsenal fan base go mad, Darren?
Only if we lose. Yeah, I mean, that's the key to it. We've had 2 weeks off. Only if we lose. If we score, and if Willian doesn't play, because I think you're right, he did go to Dubai, and I don't think he was allowed to, or he didn't stay in his bubble, or I think
he's got to isolate.
Yeah, so he may not be able to play, and I think that Pepe will play in this game anyway, because if he wants to play counter-attacking football, I think that's what he'll do. He'd want some speed up there.
Yep, Liam, lots of vitriol against Alexander Lacazette because of his clear poor form wild misses that he's had in a couple of weeks.
I've got a wild misses.
Probably the guy who the Lynchmen have been out for the most, the Arsenal Lynchmen have been out for the most. Does Lacazette start?
I don't think he will, simply because of the opposition, unless he has to for injury or COVID reasons or whatever.
I reckon he'll start.
I don't think he will, just simply because you can't play him away from home when he's got to run the length of the pitch. So I don't think he will. I think there'll be a lot of changes though, but more than I was personally expecting, simply through having to, because he's no longer got Willian as an option. He's no longer got whoever it is, El Neni as an option. Yeah. He's got injuries and COVID to think about all of a sudden. Luiz and Ceballos have had a clash. Are they going to drop out of the team all of a sudden?
If Max, I wanted to believed. Sorry, you just reminded me of that, Liam. Max, didn't you talk, or was it, I can't remember which one of you spoke about it the other week, about maybe the personality disorder within Ceballos, the fight he had on the pitch with Nketiah, and I think it was you, Max, wasn't it? You were talking about
his spiny attitude, and he's well known for being a really prickly, in a lot of cases, unlikable guy. He's got a history of bust-ups with coaches, bust-ups with players, all sorts of stuff. So I wasn't surprised to read that there had been another bust-up, and I particularly wasn't surprised to read that it had involved Ceballos again. So I don't know with him. A lot of people from your generation, Darren, say that players getting into fights and players getting at each other on the training pitch is a fantastic sign of a competitive environment. And apparently the Tony Adams era and Boldy era and all these guys, apparently they used to go out and beat the shit out of each other on the pitch all the time, get into full-blown fisticuffs, and then when it came to playing, they were all fine. But I don't know. And David Luiz as Arsenal's kind of unofficial captain as well. He's apparently very much the leader, very much the guy who sort of takes the reins and brings everyone together. It is worrying that you've got someone who's a very prominent leader in the club getting into a biff with the guy who's probably would have replaced El Neni, you would think, if you were continuing with that kind of party relationship.
Yeah, it's go on, Liam.
I think it's been a bit of a mountain made out of a molehill, if I'm honest. I mean, Ceballos has come out and apparently said it was fake, so I reckon somewhere in the middle is probably more true. I don't hate if there was a bit of a bust up, if I'm honest. I also don't think it's that big a deal, but it did make me wonder whether Arteta would leave them out of the squad just as on this occasion, because you've had this, you're dropped for a game, but come back next week. I wondered if you'd have thought the same.
Yeah,
maybe so. And I think it's a bit of a myth to say back in my generation they used to fight. I think just in that era of players, the Adams Bold, I think they just trained hard and played hard. I don't think there was any animosity. But if you read people like Alan Smith from that generation, they would talk about not socialising with the likes of Ray Parlour and Tony Adams because they were all pissheads. And Alan Smith, liked to read a book and and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, it's good points. Let's follow it with interest, because Ceballos, he's had a fight with Nketiah. In theory, he's had a fight with David Luiz now. So he's gone from big ones and little ones. He doesn't care, does he? Black ones, white ones.
And he's like it or lump it, he's not an Arsenal player. He's there on loan. So if he decides that he doesn't fancy it, and that maybe is another one of these Spanish players from the continent who's come over from Real Madrid's, and we're all sort of making up and filling in the gaps here, but there's
that's what we do.
Yeah, but I mean, look, there's definitely no doubt. When people said we were buying this guy from Spain, and that first game against Burnley, and not only that, but when we came back from break last time post-COVID, he was the best Arsenal player by. Up there with Aubameyang, obviously, was scoring the goals, but Ceballos was a huge reason why that passive system that Arteta was playing and he was being successful with, Ceballos' ability to transition the ball quickly and forwards was a huge reason why we were successful in a lot of those games. Ceballos, on the Arse Brothers, we do our 3-2-1s and we do our -1-2-3s. And in our end of season show, we were all amazed that all 5 panelists had Ceballos in their top 3 overall players for the entirety of last season. A lot of that was to do with the fact he picked up a lot of man of the matches, so a lot of 3 points, a lot of 2 points in that second run of the season. He's an important player for Arsenal. He's a technical player when we lack technique. I don't know that he's necessarily been deployed particularly well this season in this almost getting like more and more passive and more insular system that Arsenal is starting to play. And I guess what we're hoping for as fans against Leeds, so this is where everyone just wanted to tear up the team and put other people in. There were 2 players who I didn't want to see in that team. I wanted to see Lacazette dropped and I wanted to see Willian dropped. That was it.
I think that's fair as well. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, I know there's lots of calls for Willock. I thought the biggest mistake, we haven't talked about that game at all, but which I really don't want to talk about, the last game that we had. But Willock, who we all said was pushing hard for a place in that first team, again, wasn't even on the bench. And yet a bench that contained both Xhaka and Ceballos. So you've got 2 central midfield players, and yet you haven't got somebody who can potentially change the game. I thought it was a very, very strange decision after 2 excellent performances.
Yeah. And if we are going up against Leeds, and if we are going to sit more passive and break, surely that means you need runners. Surely that means you need ball carriers. Surely that means it. So I've said this before about Ceballos, just to go back to Ceballos quickly, but I think Ceballos is best in a passive team when Arsenal don't have the ball, because I think he breaks the press through his technicality. He breaks the press through his ability to Cruyff turn, to be able to pass with both feet, to be able to move. He's not a runner, and he gets a fucking nosebleed when he gets beyond sort of the 3/4 mark of the pitch. He's not a final ball provider. He's more of a final third entry ball provider. So, this pre-assist thing that we've started to come up with over the years. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, okay, so if you're going to go out there with Partey and Ceballos, and you're going to expect Partey to do actually what he did before he got injured in the Villa game, he was actually breaking the lines and running forward and feeding Aubameyang on the front foot. Well, I mean, he was doing that with El Neni behind him, who is a much more robust, metronomical defender and a much more structured player. So if you start bringing Ceballos in, are you all of a sudden then dragging Partey back? If you pair him with Xhaka, that doesn't work for me. I can't see a Partey-Xhaka partnership working in a 2. If you bring in Willock, is he going to get up and down and do the defensive work? And it's really worrying, because there's a slight structural change that needs to happen at Arsenal, and hopefully Arteta's had 2 weeks, and he's a smart coach. I have no doubt that he's a smart coach.
Smart, but a little bit stubborn, maybe.
Yeah, but that's what I hope that he's looked at over these last 2 weeks. I hope that he's sat there and he's looked at his system, and I don't think that he's a man, like you said, Darren, being quite stubborn. I don't think that he's a man who's going to sit there and say, all right, I'm going 4-3-3. And for a lot of these games, he's already playing a 4-3-3. It's just a moving, moldable thing. So, it's going to be incredibly interesting. I tell you what, the most nervous part of the game is usually kickoff, right? But I reckon the most nervous part of the game is going to be the half an hour before, when the team list gets announced.
Because if there are wild on this Twitter thing that you all do.
I do.
Okay.
I think that people, everyone's been putting up their first 11s all week. And like I said earlier, people have gone wild. Like Pepe up front, Pepe to play striker, false 9, all of this stuff. And I'm like, I sit there and I look at it and I'm like, we can only look at the evidence that we have on Arteta. The evidence that we have on Arteta is that he's very cautious. Away from home, he's even more likely to be more cautious. And like Darren said, I think it's very likely we'll go out, be structured, assume that Leeds don't have the firepower to break us down, and then try and take our opportunities when we can. It's going to be fascinating. And then if it all goes to shit, it's going to be fucking horrible.
Yeah, that's
I
the thing.
look forward to it. Go on, Liam. Did you want to add anything there? Or?
No, all I was going to say is that I've got a slight wondering, as if El Neni's not available, I wondered if we might even not play Partey, simply because Partey and El Neni are both big space players. They operate in larger areas where they can run more, whereas Ceballos and Xhaka operate better when they've got smaller spaces around them, and they don't have to run. They just seem to get the ball, move it, get the ball, turn, beat a player, move the ball, do it things quick, snappy. So I wonder if El Neni's not available, does that mean we might actually be better off playing Xhaka and Ceballos and not Partey?
How
I
is
don't know.
Partey?
I
Do
think
we know? Is Partey fit? Is he
he
available?
should be fine. I think he's
I think
back.
he would be.
Yeah,
He didn't go just as a precaution.
I think Xhaka will play. I genuinely think Xhaka will play. By
I
hook
think
or by
Xhaka and Partey, yeah. If El Neni's not
Yeah.
available, I agree. I think
I'm
Xhaka and
hoping that maybe Arteta puts Willock in there as well, and we get Xhaka, Partey, and Willock, and Xhaka does that thing that he does when Arteta first came into the team and he was playing more of a 4-3-3, where he was pulling Xhaka back into left back, and Xhaka was distributing the ball from deep from left back. That's kind of what I hope the change is going to be, that it kind of shifts, and instead of Tierney pulling in, it kind of swaps and Xhaka pulls in and Tierney goes to right back, which we saw at the end of the Villa game. We went to a flat 4 at the Villa game and you saw Tierney on the front foot in the other box. Tierney had been terrible for 60 minutes. For the last 30 minutes, he was electric. He went and tried to win it himself and whipped balls in, put one on Lacazette's head for him to do nothing with. But anyway, we could waffle about this all night.
Yeah.
But
yes. And in which case, I am going to
so fascinating.
I'm going to draw a line under this now because we're going to be back on Thursday. I've just checked our fixtures. We've got mould again. sounds like a home improvement problem, but we've got mould again on Thursday. But with the early kickoff, we're 6:00 in the evening. So that means, Max, if you can do the same time next week, 8:00 start, we can go on. For those of you who want to listen live, we'll go on straight after the mould game and talk about our emphatic win at Elland Road and our destruction of the Norwegian second best team. Yeah, we'll do that. Max, I'll leave that with you. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks for joining. Thanks for downloading. Don't forget to subscribe to Clock End Talk, and you can join us on Patreon where there's lots of extra added content. If you want to find Max, he does a whole series of podcasts. I listened to your Ask Bros OG last week with your brother. Excellent, really excellent piece of podcasting. Loved every minute of it. Very good. Liam, you're more active on Twitter than I am. You can find you at Gronin Guna. And me, you can find at Deli Guna, where you can just have a look at my pretty picture that I've got up there because I don't really say too much. Nice, thank you. Come in there from Ray. I haven't got my glasses on, can't see. I can see your surname's Anderson. Thank you for that. Thank you for listening. Thank you all. And we will see you all this time next week. Now, shall I press the end broadcast button?
Yeah,
now?
I was just going to say, make sure
I haven't
you
pressed the
it,
end
mate.
broadcast button yet. I mean, I forgot to press the start broadcast. If I forget to press the end broadcast, does that mean everyone can listen to the bit that we do at the end?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.